On crowded sidewalks where strangers pass without names, a single violin once cut through the noise of the world, not with joy, but with longing. Karolina Protsenko stood there as a child, her small hands gripping an instrument almost too large for her body, pouring emotion into melodies that felt far older than her years. Millions would later watch her play, applaud her talent, and celebrate her rise. Yet behind the viral videos and angelic smile lived a quiet weight few ever noticed, the pressure of being seen by the world before fully understanding herself. Fame came early, fast, and without warning. Childhood blurred into performance. Applause replaced privacy. Expectations grew heavier with every note she played. While audiences saw inspiration, Karolina carried fear. Fear of disappointing those who believed in her. Fear of losing the one thing that gave her identity. Fear of growing up in front of strangers who thought they knew her soul. Was her music a gift or a burden? Was her rise a dream fulfilled or a childhood slowly slipping away? This is not the story told in thumbnails and headlines. This is the untold reality behind the violin. A journey of talent, pressure, silence, and a young soul learning what it costs to be heard. The street is alive, pulsating with the mechanical rhythm of the city. Tires hissing over asphalt, car horns staccato, pedestrians' footsteps clattering in chaotic percussion. Conversations overlap, fragmented and meaningless. Amid this unrelenting cacophony, a single sound emerges, slicing through the noise like a fragile beacon. It is tentative at first, a thin, quivering note lifted from a small violin pressed against the shoulder of a child whose presence seems too slight for the vastness surrounding her. Karolina Protsenko stands on the curb, her chin resting lightly on the instrument, her small hands trembling with a gravity no child should carry. The bow draws slowly across the strings, hesitant, testing the air, asking permission to be heard. Then the melody expands, rich and haunting, each note layered with emotion that feels impossibly deep for someone so young. Pedestrians pause mid-stride, some barely breathing, drawn in by the resonance of something timeless. A man tilts his head. A woman lowers her phone. Children stop and stare, captivated by the impossibility of such sound emerging from such fragility. Karolina does not look at them. She does not yet know she is performing. The violin is her refuge, a vessel for emotions too complex for words. Longing, fear, joy, loneliness, hope, and something unnameable all pour through the instrument. The crowd hears brilliance. They do not hear the invisible weight settling on her small shoulders. Applause comes in waves, sudden and startling, as though the world cannot help but respond to her talent. Her body tenses. She bows. She smiles, unsure whether her gestures are expected or authentic. The thrill of recognition comes with an immediate companion: pressure. Each clap carries the unspoken requirement to continue, to excel, to remain unbroken in public view. More strangers gather. Phones rise. Faces shine with admiration and curiosity. The street transforms into a stage, a theater that she neither sought nor fully understands. Every performance is recorded, captured, replayed by viewers who will never know the child behind the music. The sidewalk becomes a monument to both possibility and vulnerability, and Karolina is trapped within its spotlight. When the final note fades, silence returns, heavier than before. The street exhales, the noise resumes, but she lingers, violin still in hand. She senses a fracture. The moment she was once a child is over. The moment she is a phenomenon has begun. The applause lingers in memory, but the questions remain unanswered. Was this music freedom, or the first quiet chain binding her to a world she cannot escape? Was she playing for herself, or for everyone else who now insists on hearing her? Even as she walks home, violin in case, the city humming around her, Karolina cannot shake the awareness that something has shifted irrevocably. A life once intimate and private now stretches before her, wide and demanding. And the first chains of expectation, invisible, light yet unyielding, have already begun to coil around her small frame. Karolina's childhood unfolds in the shadow of strings, notes, and repetition. Mornings begin not with play, but with stretching, positioning, and scales. The violin rests perpetually nearby, leaning silently against walls, corners, and chairs, a constant reminder that talent demands vigilance. The sound of music dominates the air, yet it never allows room for pause. Every note, every bow stroke, is imbued with unspoken expectation. Mistakes carry weight. A single wrong note does not simply exist. It becomes a moral misstep, a shadow on a reputation still forming. The pressure is invisible but relentless. She internalizes it, breathing life into the fear of failure before anyone else can notice. Praise arrives in measured doses, careful and conditional, reinforcing the notion that love and admiration must be earned, sustained, and proven with perfection. She grows inward, isolated by her discipline. While peers stumble, fail, and recover, Karolina moves cautiously, analyzing every movement, every sound, every facial expression. Her identity becomes inseparable from her talent. She is no longer just a child. She is the girl with the violin. Every smile, every bow, every song performed is a construction of something she barely recognizes as herself. Yet there are cracks, fleeting and hidden. She envies children who can fail without consequence, laugh without expectation, exist without performance. Guilt follows instantly. She reminds herself how lucky she is. She remembers the thousands who dream of what she has. Gratitude transforms into another invisible task she must fulfill. The outside world begins to intrude early. Social media, small performances, applause, each a new responsibility. The violin gives her purpose, but also constrains her universe. Opportunities multiply, yet the space to simply be a child diminishes. Spontaneity, rest, and the freedom to make mistakes become luxuries she cannot afford. Evenings are spent practicing alone, the room dimly lit, shadows stretching along the walls. The sound she produces is flawless, but the child within feels incomplete, unseen, unheard. Each note carries both mastery and melancholy, a testament to achievement built atop sacrifice. Karolina's parents and mentors support her, yet the love surrounding her is filtered through expectation. They protect her, but they also demand excellence. The violin, once a friend, becomes a mirror reflecting discipline, pressure, and an early understanding of responsibility beyond comprehension. By the end of this chapter of her life, music has perfected her technique, but it has left her spirit quietly stretched and searching. The child who once played for herself now performs for the world, and wonders if there is space left to rediscover who she truly is beneath the notes. Fame arrives without warning, without ceremony, without permission. One video is posted, then another. Algorithms spread her image, her talent, her presence across continents, transforming her into a symbol before she understands what it means to be fully seen. The city streets where she once played are now archived, screens replacing the immediacy of human connection. Numbers climb, views rise, followers multiply. She becomes an icon overnight. Externally, everything appears ideal. Recognition, invitations, applause. Internally, the weight grows. Each performance is analyzed, compared, and archived. Growth is no longer gradual. It is instantaneous, inescapable. Each new expectation becomes heavier than the last, as if she is performing on an invisible tightrope above millions of eyes. Karolina becomes hyper-aware of herself. Posture, expression, gestures, breathing. Mistakes, once minor, are now catastrophes in potential perception. Anxiety creeps in. Every note she plays is both salvation and threat. The joy she once felt now competes with the weight of visibility, the necessity of perfection. Isolation intensifies. Conversations focus on talent, achievements, numbers, rarely on emotions, doubts, or fatigue. The violin becomes both sanctuary and prison. The refuge where she can express herself is also the instrument tethering her to an endless performance cycle. At night, after applause fades, anxiety thrives. Who is she outside of performance? Outside of recognition? Outside of applause? There is no clear answer. Her sense of self, carefully constructed in public view, is fragile and unsteady. She steps onto stage after stage, smile steady, bow precise. Inside, a quiet fracture grows. Exhaustion weighs on her movements. The light in her eyes flickers. The realization dawns. She is visible everywhere, yet understood nowhere. And as the audience cheers, Karolina feels the first true shadow of fame. The invisible weight that threatens to bend, but not yet break, the child who once played only for herself. Burnout does not announce itself with a dramatic collapse. It creeps in, a quiet erosion, hidden beneath routine and the illusion of discipline. Karolina continues to wake early, continues to practice, continues to perform, yet every gesture feels heavier, every bow stroke more deliberate than necessary. The violin, once a seamless extension of her body and mind, now carries invisible weight, a burden of expectation she cannot set down. Every note is a message, every pause a test, every audience a jury she cannot escape. Silence becomes terrifying. Rest feels dangerous, as if pausing could undo years of work, as if the absence of music would erase her existence. And yet, continuing feels unbearable. Internal conflict builds like storm clouds. There are two Karolinas now. The performer, flawless, composed, smiling, and the child beneath, uncertain, fragile, exhausted. The line between the two blurs. She begins to question whether the music belongs to her, or whether it has been claimed by the expectations of a world too eager to see her succeed. Anxiety creeps into her life in subtle ways. Nights are restless. Thoughts circle endlessly. Breathing tightens before each performance. Moments that once sparked excitement now trigger tension. The joy she felt in music flickers, like a candle struggling against a wind she cannot see. Guilt gnaws at her. A quiet, insistent voice reminding her that to falter is to betray all the opportunities she was given. Shame follows. She struggles to admit that what the world calls a dream sometimes feels like a trap. Outside, life appears unchanged. Applause continues. Praise continues. Success appears uninterrupted. This disconnect deepens her isolation. She is known everywhere and understood nowhere. Her small bedroom, once a sanctuary, becomes a stage of reflection, the walls echoing with her own doubts. She touches her violin with hesitation, sensing the gulf between her passion and her obligation. The tipping point comes slowly in silence. One evening, she leaves the violin untouched. The room seems impossibly quiet. The shadows stretch longer than usual, deepening the sense of solitude. For the first time, she confronts a question she has avoided. If she steps away, even briefly, what remains of her identity? Is she only valuable while performing? Can she survive without the instrument that has defined her entire existence? The room grows colder. Her reflection in the window is faint, blurred by tears she refuses to acknowledge. The fear of absence collides with the need for presence, presence within herself, independent of performance, of audience, of expectation. She is terrified, but she is forced to listen. To herself, the silence, though deafening, is honest, carries truth she cannot ignore. And then, in that stillness, she realizes the terrifying necessity. Saving herself may require stepping away from the very thing that once saved her. The music she loves may also be the chain that binds her. The child who played for freedom must now confront what it truly means to survive. In a world that applauds but cannot feel her pain, rebirth arrives quietly, not with fanfare or recognition, but in the fragile, deliberate moments when choice is reclaimed. Karolina begins to reassess her relationship with music, slowly disentangling herself from the suffocating expectations of fame. The violin, once a burden wrapped in beauty, becomes a tool again, a channel for expression, for truth, for self-discovery. She listens differently now, not to applause, not to followers, not to the metrics that once dictated her value, but to the rhythms of her own mind, body, and heart. Boundaries begin to form. She allows herself to pause, to falter, to breathe. Fear remains, but it softens, reshaped by understanding rather than oppression. The anxiety that once dictated every note now serves as a guide, a reminder of limits rather than a prison. Music returns as a dialogue rather than a performance. The notes no longer carry only expectation. They carry emotion. Joy returns, quietly, tempered by self-awareness. She plays for herself, and the sound fills spaces that applause never could. Each melody becomes a negotiation between discipline and freedom, between her past self and the person she is becoming. Karolina's identity expands beyond the child who was known as a prodigy. She begins to understand that her worth exists outside of sound and stage. She explores the complexities of adolescence and young adulthood that she was forced to compress for performance. She reconnects with friends, hobbies, and the ordinary experiences she was denied. The world still watches, still applauds, but she no longer relies on it to validate her existence. Her parents, mentors, and closest supporters adapt too, learning to respect her autonomy. The love and guidance she once felt as conditional transforms into partnership. Every decision about her career becomes a collaboration, an agreement, not a command. For the first time, she feels the relief of being seen, not only as a violinist but as a person with boundaries, fears, and desires. The violin, though still central, no longer dominates her life. She plays with intention, savoring each note, each pause, each breath. Her performances carry depth without pressure. She is present, fully, in each movement, in each sound. The joy is quieter, more sustained, but infinitely more real. Her legacy begins to take new shape. It is no longer defined solely by virality, by numbers, or by applause. It is defined by resilience, self-awareness, and the courage to step back when necessary. She learns that success is not linear and growth is not constant. Sometimes it means standing still, sometimes it means stepping forward. As Karolina lifts her violin once more, the question that haunted her for years transforms into something gentler, reflective, and empowering. Not how far will she go, not how much will she give, but how carefully will she allow herself to grow, and how fully will she honor the person she has become. The music that once defined her has now become a companion, a guide, a mirror, not a judge. And for the first time, she plays freely, with the knowledge that the journey is hers alone, and that freedom, at last, is measured not in applause, but in authenticity.